Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we are. Here we are. Beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Here we are. You know, I have a drink here next to me. I have a ginger ale right here next to me for a reason. Because there's going to be a lot of yapping, of talking on this episode. But more importantly, there's going to be a lot of laughing and possibly yelling because a very funny thing just happened on Saturday. A hilarious thing, you could say, that will cause me to have to take a lot of this here drink right here. And you might be wondering, what was that funny thing? What was the hilarious thing? I don't think there was any comedy show on Saturday. Oh, but there was. Oh, but there was. There was actually, in my opinion, one of the greatest comedy shows on Saturday. To be fair, I did not predict this comedy show to take place, but it doesn't make it any less funny and doesn't make me any less happy that it happened. You see, something happened on Saturday, and to put it in very simple terms, what happened on Saturday was justice. It comes around every once and again and just is a pain in the butt, happens at the worst possible time for you and when you least expect it. But justice is what happened on Saturday. To who? Who did this justice happen to? I wonder. I wonder who. Was it a team that got rings made for their team that said unconquered 13 and 0? Was it a team who cried like babies because they didn't get into the playoff last year and acted so high and mighty just to get demolished, nuclear bomb dropped on them in not a playoff game, they wish, in a bowl game against the Georgia Bulldogs? 63 to 3? Was it a team who is in a very southern state who went to another country to face a rival of the team that they got absolutely destroyed by? Who's that team? That's right. It was a team who got a new transfer QB whose last name sounds similar to a ukulele. Ladies and gentlemen, the Florida State Seminoles got a little bit of justice, I fear, last night. Or not last night, sorry. Saturday afternoon. I don't know why I said last night. Saturday afternoon. And you might be asking yourself, Grayson, why do you say justice? How is it justice? I'll tell you. You see, Florida State and their fans, they cried, and they cried about how they didn't get into the playoff. And to be honest, I agreed with them at the time. I thought it was weird that they didn't get into the playoff. I understood it in a way, but I also didn't understand it in many other ways. But then they cried and it kept going. It kept going. The crying kept going and it just kept going. But see, they got an opportunity to face Georgia, the reigning back-to-back national champions, in a bowl game to show what they were made of. And the players, a lot of them opted out, clearly didn't care enough to show up for their team and to show the world, hey, we should have been in the playoff. No, they just decided to quit, which I think shows the culture that Mike Norvell has made down in Tallahassee. It is a culture of quitters. And you saw it play out Saturday. And I made a post on most people don't use Facebook nowadays, but I made a post on Facebook back when Georgia destroyed Florida State, and I said that that shows you everything about the culture of the Florida State program. How you had all those players opt out, a lot of them didn't even show up to root on their teammates, and they quit. And it showed on the field. And guess what? It showed on the field on Saturday. It showed again. And that's justice, my friends. Justice. And yes, I did pick Florida State to win the SEC. They wish. The ACC. And I will stand by it because that was the prediction that I made. And I don't think that they are as bad of a team as they played on Saturday. And we'll get to my playoff predictions, obviously, because I think they won the ACC. They're in my playoff predictions. I'm not going to change those just because Florida State lost. I think that's unfair for me to do. I want consistency. But that game, wasn't it hilarious? Wasn't everyone, obviously not Florida State fans, but everyone else laughing along with me? Watching that train wreck of DJ Ualungalalebanebana, whatever his last name is. Ukulele. I like to call him DJ Ukulele. He went 19 for 27, 193 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. You could tell from jump what they thought of DJ. You could tell it was written all over the game plan. First possession, offensive possession for Florida State. What happens? Oh, they went down. They scored. They got a 2-point conversion. That's great. Yeah, it's great. You scored your first possession. It was what? Mostly run plays. DJ didn't throw the ball past the line of scrimmage. Wonder why. You find out why later. Why is it he didn't do that? Oh, maybe because he sucks. Maybe because he's terrible. He had 2 good throws in the game on 2 fourth downs. Give him credit, sure. But the rest of the game, he was mediocre and awful. And you could tell that Mike Norvell was scared to death to let him throw the ball past the line of scrimmage. You could tell all game. And the problem is, as well, that, that running game on the first drive, fantastic. After that, it was non-existent. I mean, Roydell Williams was a transfer they had high hopes on coming from Alabama to Florida State. 12 carries, 38 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. That's nothing special. The offensive line getting pushed around by a Georgia Tech defensive line? What? And Florida State has good receivers, but you kind of have to have a quarterback who can throw the ball accurately to have that shown. And that's just one side of the ball. Don't even get me started on the defense. Linebackers, terrible. The defensive line, who everyone said was going to be one of the best defensive lines in the country, the best defensive line in the ACC, looked slow and small and got pushed around by the Georgia Tech offensive line. They couldn't stop the run to save their lives. Haynes King and that running game ran all over them all game. I'm a Georgia fan. I was told by Florida State fans that Marvin Jones Jr., who was a transfer from Georgia to Florida State, he didn't play much at Georgia. Wonder why. And he goes to Florida State, and I hear Florida State fans telling me, oh, y'all are going to regret losing him. He's going to be so good. Look how Jared Verse was at Florida State. He's going to be so good over here. Yeah, how do you feel about that again? Marvin Jones Jr. looked slow He had no pop, no get off on the line, nothing on Saturday against Georgia Tech. And you wonder why he left. You wonder why he wasn't getting much play time. You really wonder. It's been a bad year for Florida State fans, for Florida State in general. You have an undefeated season, but you don't get into the playoff. Then you get destroyed by Georgia. And now to start off the season against Georgia Tech in Dublin, week 0, when everyone's eyes are on you, you lose. And on the other side, Georgia Tech, I think Georgia Tech had a great game plan coming in. I thought they played like they actually wanted to be there, like they actually wanted to win. And yeah, Haynes King was nothing special throwing the ball, but he didn't need to be because the running game was phenomenal. Jamal Haynes looked like a stud. He looked like the best running back on the field. Haynes King was running the ball very well as well. They didn't have to, worry about throwing the ball because Florida State couldn't stop the run. Georgia Tech's defense played very well, but I didn't think they necessarily had to play very well because DJ Ukulele sucks. And that's just how it is. Now, I think people are getting a little crazy from the result of this game. I mean, people think Florida State are dead in the water. I don't think that. Because what you don't want to do is have an overcorrection where you go from, oh, Florida State's a contender, they lose, and now, oh, Florida State's trash. They're they don't have a chance. They're not making the playoff. I mean, you can't make all these conclusions after one loss, especially in a 12-team playoff. And look, I get it. They look terrible. But I don't want there to be an overcorrection. I think there's a lot of overcorrecting going on with Georgia Tech. People are also now, oh, Georgia Tech, they're a contender. Please. You can't be a primarily running team that barely throws the ball and expect me to think that you're going to be some sort of contender in the ACC. No, I'm sorry. Now, in a couple of years, maybe once, Key is able to get a lot more of his guys in and kind of develop this over the next few years, maybe. But as of right now, are they that much of a threat? Not really. I think they simply wanted it more than Florida State. That's what I think. And it showed. And what I said back after the Georgia game, that Florida State had a culture of quitting, it showed itself again. Because it just felt like once Florida State saw that Georgia Tech wasn't going to be some easy win, that they just shut down. That's what it felt like. Not Georgia Tech, Florida State has a big game coming up against Boston College because if they lose to Boston College, oh, shoo, buddy, there's going to be a lot of laughing going on. And I'll be right back here roasting them. But let's get off Florida State. We can move to something else. We can give them a reprieve, I guess. Whew. That was a lot of passion out of me. You know what I'm saying? But they deserve it because stuff like that just angers me. When there's so much talk and complaining from one fan base, and then you go out there and you just embarrass yourselves. I mean, come on. Let's move on to my playoff predictions, huh? Now, I didn't change these after the Florida State. Florida State's in them because I predicted Florida State to win the conference. And I wasn't going to change it because that would be dishonest. I picked them to win the conference, so I need to continue to have them in the playoffs. Plain and simple. So they're in here. So let's just go through this. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with my playoff prediction, but I feel pretty good about it. I think I have a couple teams in here people won't expect, a couple teams that are not in here people won't expect, so we'll see. Where should I start? Let's just go over the top four, the people I have winning their conferences. I've done my conference preview, so you should know who these teams are if you've been listening. It's just a matter of where they're ranked 1 through 4. 1, I have Georgia. 2, Ohio State. 3, Utah. 4, Florida State. I think obviously the Florida State one's a little awkward right now, but the other 3 I'm pretty confident in. And it'll probably end up being around that order. But here's where it really gets interesting. 5 through 12. Now, I'll go ahead and say 12. This is the group of 5 team, obviously. I have Liberty. I think Liberty has a very easy schedule, just like last year. I think it's very possible they go undefeated. With Caden Salter and those boys, I think they could 100% be that 12 seed. Now, they'll get annihilated, but, they'll be there. I have them in the first round facing my number 5 team, the team I think that is going to be I think is the best ranked team that did not win their conference, the Oregon Ducks. Ironically, Oregon faced Liberty last year in a bowl game, annihilated them, and I think it'll be about the same. At 11, people will probably be surprised by this. At 11, I have the LSU Tigers. Why, Grayson? I'll tell you why. First of all, I went over them. They were my dark horse in the SEC. I went over them. Their schedule's not bad. A lot of their hard games they have at home. USC is a neutral site. I think they're just frankly better than USC. But Alabama, they get it home. Ole Miss, they get it home. So I think that bodes well for LSU. I could totally see them being in the SEC championship. I could totally see them having only 1 or 2 losses. So that's why I have them at 11. I have them in the first round facing my 6 seed Texas Longhorns. Obviously, I had them in the SEC championship against Georgia. I think that this is a very interesting matchup, a dangerous one for Texas. And also, obviously, a dangerous one for LSU because they'll have to travel to Texas for that first round. But, an SEC battle in the first round, LSU, Texas, I mean, come on now. That's a banger. That is a certified banger. At 10, maybe another surprising one. I have Penn State. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't believe in Penn State, but Penn State, if the playoff was 12 teams last year, Penn State would have been in. I don't think Penn State's crazy good, but they have an easy schedule. They don't play Michigan. And I have them facing number 7, my 7 seed, Alabama. At Alabama, and I think Alabama could possibly destroy them. I think Alabama isn't going to be as good of a team as it's been recently under Nick Saban. I think it's going to take Kalen DeBoer a little bit of time. But in this first season, I think Alabama will be just good enough to make it at the 7 seed. At 9, the 9 seed, I have Ole Miss. I think there's going to be 5 SEC teams. I could see only 4, but right now I have 5. I think Ole Miss is a good team. I think they'll be able to sneak their way in. I have them facing my number 8 seed. This will shock a lot of people. The 8 seed I have is Iowa. And I have Iowa because Iowa has an extremely easy schedule. Iowa is a team who's very good defensively. They have a new offensive coordinator, so we'll have to see if the offense can be better. I can't imagine it'd be worse. It'd be very hard for it to be worse. But I think Iowa has a real chance of making this playoff. Now, playing Ole Miss, I think, is actually a very interesting game. How does that Ole Miss offense look against an elite Iowa defense, especially at Iowa? I'd probably pick Ole Miss to win that, but you know. But that's my playoff. If I were to kind of play it out, what I think will happen, I'd have Oregon beat Liberty, Texas beat LSU, Alabama Pete, Alabama beat Penn State, and Ole Miss beat Iowa. And ultimately, I think it's kind of destiny at this point. A lot of people think Georgia, Ohio State in the national championship. I disagree, kind of. I think that's definitely a possibility. I think Georgia and Ohio State are destined to be, in that Final Four. But you know what? I think it's either that, Georgia, Ohio State, or I think it's Georgia, Oregon. My early prediction from months ago was Georgia, Oregon. I think this Oregon team is very good. But, I mean, obviously, that Ohio State team is very good. But I definitely think it's going to be SEC versus Big Ten Natty. And those typically go the SEC's way. So, And obviously, my prediction for the national championship is for Georgia to be your national champion. Now, I know that's going to sound biased. Maybe it is. But I don't think it is that biased nor crazy for me to say that the team that has won 2 out of the last 3 national championships will be the national champion. I don't think that's that crazy of a take or biased of a take. And you could argue if they were in the playoff last year, they would have three-peated. But we're not even going to get into that discussion because that's a fantasy land that didn't exist. Let's get into my week 1 picks. This is why we're really here. Other than me laughing at Florida State. So, we'll go over some Thursday games, some Friday games, some Saturday games. We even got a Sunday and a Monday game. We have a whole weekend full of this. On Friday's episode, by the way, I will be reviewing the Thursday night games from the night before. Hopefully, I will say this. I'm praying for a North Dakota State win over Colorado so I can come on here. And you thought I was going in on Florida State? Oh, buddy, you don't even know what I would say about Colorado. You don't even know. But I will be reviewing the Thursday night games and I will be giving week 2 game picks. So, Thursday, North Carolina versus Minnesota. An interesting one, isn't it? 2 teams people are a little curious about. Not many people talking about North Carolina. Not many people talking about Minnesota, huh? It's a hard in games like these. They're so hard to pick. They're so hard to pick. I'm going to pick North Carolina, though. I think North Carolina has the better team. I don't see Minnesota being very good this year. So I'm going to go North Carolina. I trust Mac Brown more as well. But the game I think most of us will be watching, North Dakota State versus Colorado. I've gone back and forth about who I'm going to pick. Am I going to pick Colorado? Am I going to pick North Dakota State? Because it would just be so funny if North Dakota State won. It would be so funny. And I'm tempted to do it for the content. But you know what? I would rather be try and be accurate. So I'm gonna pick Colorado. It's at Colorado. They did good in their season opener last year, although it was on the road. So I'll say they do good in their season opener again. I'll pick Colorado to win, sadly. On Friday, TCU at Stanford. Another interesting one. I think TCU is a much better team, but having to travel all the way to Stanford cannot be fun, especially for a Friday night game. But I'm going to pick TCU. I just think Stanford's bad. I think they're just bad, bad to bad to bad. And then on Saturday, we got some bangers on Saturday. Clemson versus Georgia in Atlanta. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on this game. Some people think Georgia's going to walk in, absolutely destroy Clemson. Some people think, oh, it'll be close, but Georgia will win by, about 10 points, 10 to 17 points. I haven't heard many people other than anyone who is a Clemson fan say Clemson's going to win. And you aren't going to hear it from me. I don't know where I stand on this game because I could see it being a blowout, but I could also see it being close. If I had to guess, Georgia probably wins from anywhere from 14 to from 2 to 3 touchdowns. But I think they'll handle their business. Virginia Tech at Vandy. I think Virginia Tech's going to waltz up into Nashville and absolutely put a pounding on Vandy, sadly, for the Commodores. Penn State, West Virginia might be the hardest game to pick because Penn State is a frustrating team. West Virginia is a good team. Garrett Green at quarterback. They're not a team you want to play. And this is on the road at West Virginia. Week 1, that place is going to be rocking. I fear for Penn State, to be quite honest. But I'm going to pick Penn State because I feel like James Franklin is the type of guy, and we've seen this over the years. He wins these games, but he doesn't win the big ones. So I'll pick Penn State. Miami versus Florida. Ooh, the game that I feel like I've talked about way too much. But the game that I said probably matters the most for both of these teams because Miami losing would be detrimental to them and to Cristobal. And Florida losing, it just makes it even harder for them to make a bowl game this year. I think it's a must win for both teams, both coaches. But at the end of the day, as much as I think the Swamp is a very hard place to play, and it's been proven over the years that you don't want to play Florida no matter how bad they are in Florida, in the Swamp. I think Miami, as of right now, is just too talented. And I'm going to pick Miami to win. And I hate picking a game like this because these are two teams that I typically don't pick well because it seems like whatever I pick Florida to do, they do the opposite. And then the same with Miami. So maybe that means Florida's going to win. I don't know. But I'm going to pick Miami. Maybe Florida fans should now all rejoice. Notre Dame versus Texas A&M, another interesting one. I think this is one of those games that's going to tell us everything. One of those games that's going to open people's eyes. I think Texas A&M wins at home because I think it's going to open people's eyes to Notre Dame's deficiencies. And I think it's going to tell people that Notre Dame is not as good as we've been saying that they are, especially with the injury at tackle that they've had. And again, those SEC teams, hard places to play. Kyle Field's not fun. Season opener, new head coach. Connor Wegman's a stud, we think. Not fun. So we'll see. But I think I'm going to pick Texas A&M. By the way, these picks could go horribly for me. Week 1 is always the hardest week to pick in any sport, NFL, college, NBA, MLB. I mean, week 1 is so hard to pick because you haven't actually seen these teams play. It's all speculation. Sunday night, USC versus LSU in Las Vegas. I'm picking LSU because I'm standing on the hill that LSU is better than people think, and USC is going to be USC. They're going to have a bad defense. Lincoln Riley's the most overrated coach in college football. I'm sick and tired of the Lincoln Riley lovers, and I'm glad people are starting to open their eyes to how mediocre he actually is. I understand he coaches Heisman Trophy winners, but how many of those Heisman Trophy winners have gotten him national championships? None. That should tell you all you need to know. Baker Mayfield, no. Kyler Murray, no. Jalen Hurts, no. Caleb Williams, no. Miller Moss, let me guess, no. He has nothing to show for it with all these great QBs he gets. Nothing to show for it. All he has to show for it is making the playoffs and getting blown out. Congrats. I just went on a Lincoln Riley tangent. Monday night, Boston College versus Florida State. Oh boy. Florida State. I'm going to pick Florida State. I don't think Boston College is good enough yet. Well, I think it's going to take Bill O'Brien a few years. I do like their quarterback, Thomas Castellanos. I think he's electric, but I don't think he's enough to beat Florida State, especially Florida State's home opener. I don't like Boston College's chances. But those are the picks. Friday, as I've said, will be me reviewing the Thursday games and also my week 2 game picks. Once again, the reason I'm doing week 2 game picks on Friday before even week 1 happens, which is a dangerous thing to do, let me just say, is because, first of all, I want you all to hear my picks and know my picks so I can't cheat and just be like, oh, I got all my week 2 picks right. Just trust me. But also because I'm going to be on vacation. I'm leaving on Saturday. I know, during week 1 to go on vacation. I'll be back the following Saturday during week 2. You will have the next episode after Friday, which is August 30th. The next episode will be September 10th. And I will review week 2, give my week 3 game picks. And from that point on, we will be rolling. And who knows what state I'll be in when I come on September 10th to do that episode. I could, if somehow Georgia loses to Clemson, I could be in a very aggressive state, but we will see. I think anyone or everyone, whoever is watching, I appreciate it. If you want to leave a like, leave a like. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. If you want to leave a comment, calling me an idiot, perfectly fine. Don't care. I hope everyone has a fantastic day. If you want a good laugh, go back, watch Florida State versus Georgia Tech in Dublin, and have a tremendous day.